Hey, what's going on, guys? This is a video lesson for Hotel California by the Eagles. Alright, so this is it's a great song, one of my favorite tunes of all time. It was extremely time consuming to put this lesson together. So if I happen to miss anything or overlook anything, feel free to let me know and I will definitely fix that and correct that mistake. However, I'm pretty sure that I touched on everything that I needed to touch on. Now, the way I made this lesson was I made it so that you can reference back to any particular point at any time, okay? So, some key points that you're going to need to know is you have your intro, which is, the signature intro of the song. It's played fingerstyle guitar on a 12-string, but I just play it on my electric using a pick. You can play it however you want, but I show you the chords and I show you, my way of playing it. And then you have your verses, and in the verses, the rhythm is the same thing as the intro. So whatever the intro is, that's the rhythm, the underlying rhythm that's going on during all the verses. And then over top of that, you have, in the first verse, you have two guitar parts that are harmonizing with each other, which I show you both of those. Then the second verse, it starts out with just two guitar parts, and then it turns into four guitar parts. So I break the second verse up into verse 2-1 and then verse 2-2, and I show you all four guitar parts. Then you have the third verse, which is basically just the same as the second verse, so I didn't need to do anything there. Then you have two choruses, and in the choruses you have, each chorus has its own set of fills. So I broke the chorus down into chorus number 1 and chorus number 2, and I showed you both of the fills. Or all the fills in all the chorus parts. Then you have your solo section, and I broke the solo section down into 8 different sections, okay? So the solo is, that way you can always refer back to any particular phrase of the solo at any point and, just kind of go and touch up on whatever part you need to touch on. Then after the solo section, I gave a demonstration of the entire solo played at a slower speed. And then after that, I do the outro, which is the outro, the two guitars harmonizing with each other doing the outro solo. So, very time-consuming lesson that I did here. It's going to be a very long lesson, but the reason I broke it down into all those sections, and I gave you the cliff notes, so you can always kind of just jump to whatever section you want to at any time. Because it's very long, it has so many parts, but I touched on every part. And again, if I overlooked anything or if I missed anything, just feel free to let me know. So with that said, let's get on to the lesson. Alright, so this is the intro of the song. Alright, so now this is played on a 12-string acoustic guitar, the actual song, okay? It's played on a 12-string acoustic guitar, and I believe it's played fingerstyle. So I'm playing it on an electric guitar, and I'm going to be using a pick for it, so it may not be exactly the same as the track. This is the only portion of this lesson that's not going to be exactly the same as the track. The solo, every other part of the song is going to be 2-track. However, the exact finger picking notes that he does may be a little bit different than what I'm about to teach you. However, the chords that I'm going to show you are accurate, okay? So, there's also another version. You could play this using a capo on the 7th fret, so if you want to do it that way, that's fine. But for the purposes of this lesson, I'm just going to show you the chords that you can use that you don't have to use a capo, okay? So, with that said, let's get on to it. So, the chords that you're going to be using for the intro are, you're playing a B minor right here. Okay, and then you're moving to an F sharp 7, and basically the way you do that is you just simply put your pinky down 1 fret lower than where your 3rd finger is, and then you take your 3rd finger and you move it from the D string to the G string. Okay? Alright, so that's a F sharp 7. And then you move the bass line down a little bit more, and you are left with an A sus2 chord. Okay? And then you move your bass line down a little bit more, and you're left with an E9 chord. Okay, then you move the bass line down a little more, and you're left with just a G major chord. Alright, and then you are left with a D major chord played in this shape. If you're watching this on YouTube, you don't have the chord diagrams and the tabs on the screen. If you're watching this from my website, you do, so just follow the chord diagrams. So anyway, you're moving to a D major chord using the G shape, if you're familiar with the Cage system. Okay, and then you're moving to an E minor chord, or E minor 7 chord. And then you're moving to an F sharp 7 again, but played in a little different way like this. Okay, so again, if you're watching it from my website, you have all the chord diagrams and tabs on the screen. If you're watching this from YouTube, just kind of follow along. So anyway, you start off with this B minor 7 chord. Or I'm sorry, just a B minor chord, not a B minor 7. B minor chord. And that goes like this. Okay, so you're just using the last 4 strings, the high 4 strings. So you strum. Alright, and as I said, this may not be exactly to track the exact picking strings that he's doing, but the chords are correct. So you can pretty much pick whatever strings you want. It's going to sound good. So it's a strum, and then okay, you're just playing that B minor chord. Then after you do that, you kind of go, and that's just a 7 to the 9 on the G string. So far it's okay. So that's the first chord. The second chord is you just simply move the bass line down that's on the D string. You're moving it from your 3rd finger here to your 2nd finger here. All right, and then you're replacing your 3rd finger on the 9th fret of the G string now. Okay, it was previously on the D string, now you just move it to there. So you're going. Okay, so you're just kind of making a little switch here. So it's. Alright, and then this, again, the pattern that I'm using is. So I'm going. So far we have. Alright, so you're going from the B minor chord to this F sharp 7 chord. Very, very easy change. Alright, you're just kind of reversing your fingers like that, okay? And then the next one, since you're already at this position here, going to the A sus2 is very easy. You simply just put your you leave your 3rd finger where it is. You put your pinky down on the 10th fret of the B string. Alright, and then you kind of use your 1st finger. Your 1st finger is going to be barring 5 strings in this chord. Okay? So you're going from. And then you just kind of put your pinky down, lift your middle finger up, and then you kind of just bar. Okay, so that's the A sus2 chord. All right, and the the pattern that I'm using here is. I think that. Yeah, it's the one I was using. That's the one I have tabbed out. Okay, so again, any of these notes will work as long as you have the chord right. Okay, so the important part is you get the chord right, and then, you can follow the exact finger picking style that I'm doing, or you can try and figure out exactly what he's doing on the track, or you can just kind of play whatever you want, and just as long as you're playing these chords, then it's going to sound fine, Okay, so that's kind of how this works. All right, so far we have. so I'm going. Now if you want to bar that right off the bat, you can. You can go. You can go. But I find it's more natural for me to start out just barring 4 strings, and then when it's time to move that bass line, I kind of move my first finger like so. So you can do it however you want, but ultimately you're going to be doing. Okay, so again. Oop, I'm sorry. Okay, so B minor to an F sharp 7 to an A sus 2. Alright, and then the next chord is an E9 chord. Alright, and this you're kind of taking your pinky from here and you're bringing it down to here on the 11th fret of the A string. Alright, so you're actually this is kind of a complete change here. Alright, so the first 3 chords are just kind of subtle changes, but this one's kind of a complete change. So you're doing 11 on the A string with your pinky, and then 9 on the D string with your middle finger, and then 7 on the G string with your first finger, and you're barring these 3 strings with your first finger. So you have this E9 chord. Okay, so again, if you're watching this from my website, just look at the chord diagram, follow the tabs. You have it on there. If you're watching it from YouTube, I'm doing my best to explain it without the chord diagrams. So, okay, so this one again is a similar pattern to the last one. Okay, so we have. So that might be kind of a weird stretch for you, but you know, with practice you'll get it. And then the next one, you're moving the bass line down a little bit from here. Okay, so the bass line moves down to this, and you're landing on a G chord. This is just a G major chord. And if you're familiar with the caged system, then you'll know that this is the C shape of the caged. Okay, I have a free lesson on the caged, so if you don't know what that is, check that out. I'll even throw a link to it if you want. And, you know, caged, C-A-G-E-D, C shape of the G major chord. Okay, so coming out of the E, or the E9. Alright, so he throws in one of them at this point. And I find it easier to play this G major shape barring, using your first finger to bar at least 4 of the strings, okay? Because that way it'll set you up for this. Because if you're only kind of playing the high 2 strings or whatever, at one point you're eventually going to have to move your first finger down. So it might be better to simply just, when you're coming from this E9 chord and you're making the switch to the G major chord, to kind of adjust your first finger as well. So. Alright. So far we have. Okay, and again, forgive me if I'm not playing exactly what I show in the tabs. Of course, if you're on YouTube, you don't see the tabs on the screen, but if you're watching this from my website, if I'm not playing exactly what you see on the tabs, this is just kind of my interpretation of what I hear in the song. The important thing is the chords, okay? You want to play the chords right, and you want to get these little fills right, such as this, okay? So as long as you get the chords right and you get your timing to, accurately depict the song, it's going to sound fine. If you want to get it exact, just listen to the track and figure out exactly what finger picking he's doing, okay? So right now we're at the G major chord. Alright, now he moves to a D major chord, okay? And this D major chord is actually a D using the G shape, okay? Again, this is back to the caged system. So this is a G shape of the D major chord. Okay, but the way I have it in the tabs is it starts out just using the higher strings of it. It goes... something like that, okay? So... okay? So, coming out of this G major chord, alright, so I'm barring 4 of the strings from the E all the way to the D string with my first finger to make sure I'm hitting that 7th fret note. Okay, so... that's why I kept missing before. I kept missing that note. Okay, so again, my apologies that this particular portion of the song is not 100% to track, but the chords are correct, so just follow the chords, alright? And now that's the D major chord using the G shape of the caged system. Alright, and then the next chord is an E minor 7 chord. Alright, this is probably a chord that you're familiar with. Okay, so it's just like an E minor bar chord, but you lift out your pinky. Okay, so this one goes... and it gets that low E string there at some point too. So far what we have is started from the B minor. Then it goes to this D chord. Last chord is another F sharp 7, but it's a different version of it. So this is... so you kind of want to bar these last 3 strings, the high 3 strings with your first finger, and then your pinky is going to go down the 9th fret of the G string. Your middle finger, your second finger, is going to go down on the 8th fret of the D string, and your third finger is going to go down on the 9th fret of the A string. Okay, and he actually ends this phrase with, let me see how much time I have. Okay, I'm almost at 20. Alright, so he ends this phrase with, on this, so you're actually going to have to move your pinky from this position to this position at some point. So it's going to go. I don't recommend, after you hit this note once, I don't recommend hitting that again, because at some point it's going to be a bad note. So your pinky's eventually going to come off and be hitting this higher note. So you may want to do something like this. Okay. Because if you were to hit that note if your pinky was gone, it would sound like this. And you'd have a bad note in there, so you don't want to do that. So you want to go. Alright, so the whole thing. So it wasn't perfect, but you know, I was doing my best to get those chord changes down. So in my opinion, this is a very, very tricky song to play. It would require a lot of practice to get it perfect, and you know, I'm not going to try and act like I have this perfect. I do play this song live with my band, so I know this solo like the back of my hand. However, when I go to play this part, I cheat, and as all I do is I play the just chords down here. You know, I just kind of do B minor. So that's what I do when I play it live with my band. But since you guys are watching this lesson, I'm assuming that you wanted to learn the actual intro. So I went and I researched and I learned what chords he was using, and I came up and figured out that, you know, he's using these higher chords up here, and that's what I came up with. So the chords are correct. However, the exact finger picking and the exact tabs that I had tabbed out are not exactly 2-track, but the chords are 2-track. But for the rest of the song is going to be exactly 2-track, so don't worry about that. Alright, so that's your intro. Let's get on to the verse, the first verse. Okay, so now here's verse 1. Now, verse 1, 2, and 3, the rhythm that's going on behind it is just that same thing that we went over in the intro, those chords being played over and over, finger style, on the 12-string acoustic. But then there's 2 electric guitars that come in and they start playing harmonies, this little harmony riff over top of the rhythm. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the song a million times. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So it's pretty simple. Guitar number 1 is just riding down on the, starting on the G string, starting on the 9th fret, and he's going. No. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. He's starting on the 9th fret of the D string, not the G string. He's starting on the 9th fret. And he goes down to the 8th fret. And to the 7th fret. And to the 6th. And to the 5th. And to the 4th. And then he goes to the 7th fret of the A string. And then he goes to the 9th fret of the A string. Okay, so I have the rhythm recorded in my looper pedal already, so just the one guitar part sounds like this. Pretty simple. Okay, so that's the first guitar part. The second guitar part harmonizes with guitar number 1, and he's doing something slightly different. So he's starting on the G string of the 7th fret, and he's going, and then he moves down to the 6th fret of the G string, and then he holds that again. He holds the 6th fret again. And then he comes down to the 4th fret of the G string. And then he holds the 4th fret again. And he comes down to the 2nd fret. and he does a little slide or a little hammer, whichever one you want to do, from the 4th to the 5th on the D string. And then the last is a bend on the 8th fret. Okay, so he's going, let me first I'm going to play the first guitar part, and then I'm going to play the second guitar part over top of it harmonized, okay? So right now we have, let me see if I can do this. Okay, so that's pretty simple. You know, if you're watching this from my website, you have the tabs, but it's not really hard. You're just kind of walking down. So verse 2 and verse 3 are slightly more complicated, but really not that bad. The hardest part of the whole song, in my opinion, is the intro and the solo. And the solo is really not even that hard. It's just, you just got to get the phrasing down and memorize a lot of stuff. But, you know, I think the intro is the hardest part, which is why I kind of fake my way through it every time I play it. But that's verse 1. So let's go into verse 2. Okay, so now here's verse 2. Now, again, the rhythm is still the same as the first verse and the intro. It's just the intro chords, okay? Now, there's actually 4 guitar parts that's going on here. So the way this works is guitar number 1 and guitar number 2 start out the first half of this verse playing basically what they did in the first verse with just a couple extra little bends, which I'll show you. And then during the second half of the verse, guitar number 3 and guitar number 4 come in and they start doing these high things, these I'll get to that. But so when that's going on, when guitar number 3 and guitar number 4 come in, guitar number 1 and 2 basically revert back to what they were doing in the first verse. Okay? So the way this works is, let me first start out with guitar number 1 and guitar number 2. Okay, so guitar number 1 is going like this. Which part do I want to play? Which part? Okay, so starts on the 9th fret. So just as we went over in the last verse, he's just kind of walking down from 9th fret of the D string. Okay, so just kind of walking down, but he goes like this. Okay, so he starts out on the 9th fret D string, bends on the 11th fret D string, and then after he does that bend, he slides to the 8. So instead of just going from 9 to 8 like he did in the first verse, he goes. Alright, and then he moves down to the 7th fret. Then he moves down to the 6th fret. Alright, and then before moving down to the 5th fret, he goes. And then he goes to the 4th fret. Oh, and that bend is on the 6th fret of the G string, okay? And then it's a slide from 5 to 7 on the A string. And then a half bend on the 9th fret. And then he walks up 9, 10 on the A string, 8 on the D string. So then he just reverts back to doing what he did in the first verse after that. So just guitar 1 alone goes like this. so you see how the second half of that, guitar number 1 just kind of reverts back to doing what he did in the first verse. Okay? Now he may actually, on that very last note when he's on the 9th fret of the A string, he may actually bend it. You know, it won't hurt you to do that. It'll sound fine because it'll harmonize with what the other guitars are doing. But if you just kind of just hang on the 9th fret A string, that'll sound fine too, okay? The important thing is you don't want to hit bad notes that'll cause clashing harmonies. Alright, so that's guitar 1. Alright, so if you're watching this from my website, just follow along with the tabs. If you're watching this from YouTube, just follow along with what I'm saying. So that's guitar number 1. Now guitar number 2 basically does the same thing as he was doing in the previous verse as well. However, he does those little bendy things as well. So he's starting out in the same spot, 7th fret of the G string. So he's going, and he does his first bend on the 9th fret of the G string. So he bends up, bringing him right down to that 6th fret. And then again he repeats. And then he does another bend on the 5th fret of the B string. And down to the 2nd fret. And then a 4 to the 5 on the D string. Alright, and then a bend on the 7th fret. I'm sorry, it's a bend on the 8th fret, I apologize. 8th fret of the D string. And then a walk up, 8, 9 on the D string. And then a 6 on the G string. So, and that sets him up for the next round of the verse, which is the same as verse 1. So let me just try and play guitar 2's part for this whole verse. So it sounds like this. So you see how the second half of guitar part 2 as well just kind of did the same thing that he did in the first verse. Alright? So he's doing those little bendy things, and guitar number 1 is doing the little bendy things, and they both harmonize with each other. So let me try and play both of those together, and then we'll get on to verse 2-2, which is where guitar number 3 and 4 come in. I know this is kind of confusing with all the guitar parts. Believe me, it's very confusing for me to try and make this lesson because I'm trying to organize it in the most logical way possible, but with all these guitar parts, and it's difficult. But anyway, so I have the rhythm and I have verse guitar 1 stored on my loop pedal, so I'm going to play guitar number 2 over top of it. So that sounds like this. Okay, so that's that, and then the second half of this verse is just the same as we went over in the last verse, okay, with guitar number 1 and 2 at least. So this is where guitar number 3 and 4 kick in, and let me actually I'm going to set up another video track and another recording for this, so give me a second. Okay, so this is the second half of verse 2. Alright, so this is where guitars number 3 and guitar 4 come in. Now, guitar number 3 and guitar number 4 are harmonizing with one another, and guitar number 1 and guitar number 2 are doing exactly what they were doing in the first verse. Okay, so you already learned the first verse. That's what guitar number 1 and 2 are doing underneath these now third and fourth guitar parts. Alright, so you can label this however you want. You can call guitar 3 or guitar 4, whatever you want, but I'm just going to, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to call this guitar number 3's part. Okay, so basically all he's doing is he's starting on the 15th fret of the B string and he's going like this. And he's doing a hammer pull, hammer on the 14th and 13th of the E string. So he's going. Alright, and then he goes to the 14th fret of the B string and then does the same hammer pull on the E string. Okay, and then he goes down to the 12th fret. I'm sorry, then he stays on the 14th fret of the B string, but he moves to the 12th fret of the E string. So he goes. And then he goes to the 12th fret and does the same hammer pull. Okay, so far it's. So it's kind of the same pattern. It's 15, then it's a hammer, then it's a 14, then it's a hammer, then it's a 14 again, but then the hammer moves, and then it's a 12, and then the hammer moves, and then the 12 remains constant for this next part, which is 12. Okay, so that's a 10, 9, 10 hammer on the E string, and then it's a 10th fret, and then a 10, 9, 10 hammer. Okay, and then it's a, and what is that? 8th fret, 7, 6, 7 hammer. And then the ending is a bend on the 9th fret of the E string. Okay, so the whole thing is. Okay, so let me do that one more time because it's kind of tricky, like when to move the hammer or when to move the initial starting note. So it's. Okay, so that is what guitar number 3 is doing over top of what guitar number 1 and 2 are doing, which is the same thing as the previous verse. So now let me do and show you what guitar number 4 is doing to harmonize with guitar number 3. Okay, so then guitar number 4 comes in and he does this little harmony part. Okay, so he starts out on the 16th fret of the G string and he's doing a series of walk downs on the G string as well as hammers on the B string. Okay, so he's going. So that's the first one, 16th fret of the G string, and then 15, 14, 15 on the B string. So it's. And then 15. Okay, and then 14, 13, 14. And then 14. And 14, 13, 14. Then 13. Then that's 12, 11, 12. Then 12. And then 11. 10, 9, 10. And then 9. And then that's 8, 7, 8. And the final bend is on the 11. Okay, so if you're watching this from my website, you have the tabs on my screen, so you can just, or on your screen, so you can just follow along with the tabs. If you're watching this from YouTube, just follow along with what I'm doing. And I don't have the tabs because I have to memorize all this stuff to teach it to you. But the tabs are on the screen, and I'm looking at the tabs over on my computer over there. So anyway, this whole guitar number 4 part goes like this. Let me try and play this without messing up. So it starts on the 16th fret. So it goes. So that's how that part goes. Now guitar number 3 and guitar number 4, they harmonize with one another, and I'm going to play that whole thing for you. So again, the way this verse goes is guitar number 1 and guitar number 2 start off basically doing what they were doing in the first verse, but with the little bendy things, okay? Just a little added flavor to what they're doing, which I showed you in the previous section, verse 2-1. And then guitar number 1 and guitar number 2 revert back to doing exactly what they were doing in verse 1, and then guitar number 3 and 4 kick in, which is what I'm showing you in this section. Okay, so the way I have this is I have it looped in my looper pedal. I have the rhythm, and then I have the how do I have this? I have the one guitar part stored, and then in the second part I have the other guitar part stored. So basically you're going to hear me harmonizing with the other guitar. I don't know exactly which guitar part it is, 1, 2, 3, or 4, but you'll hear how the whole thing goes together. So it sounds like this. So it's... Okay, so that's the 4 guitar harmonies all together, and then verse 3 is actually, verse 3 starts out with no harmonies for the first half of verse 3, and then the second half of verse 3 is basically exactly what I just played. So the second half of verse 3 is exactly the same as the second half of verse 2, so basically we did everything that we needed to do for the verses. So we have the intro, we have the verse harmonies. Now it's time to go to the chorus so I can show you the fills and then the solo, which is going to take some time. Alright, so that is that for the verses. Okay, now the chorus, there's 2 choruses in the song, and the chorus is a lot easier to present than the verses because there was all those guitar parts. Anyway, so basically the verses just... simple chord progression, and there's 4 different fills. Okay, so in the first chorus he does 1 fill and then another fill, and then the second chorus he does a 3rd fill and then a 4th fill, and that's pretty much it. So the rhythm chords for the chorus are simply it's just a G, G major, then a D major, and then an E minor, and then a B minor. Okay, and then the second time around it's the same thing, except it ends on an F sharp 7 chord. So So you can either do an F sharp or an F sharp major chord, or you can do an F sharp 7 chord by lifting up your pinky. Okay, so now it leads in. I want to show you all the little fills. So it leads in by going. Okay, so one of the million guitars that is in the song starts out on the 2nd fret of the low E string and goes, and then 1st fret on the A string, 2nd fret A string, 4th fret A string, and by the time he's hitting the 5th fret of the A string, that's when the chorus is kicked in, okay? Okay, that's a note within the G chord. Okay, so I can't play it at the same time, but it's as soon as he hits that note, that's when the chorus starts. Okay, now the first fill that he does is up here on the G and the B string. So it's 11th fret of the G string and the 10th fret of the B string. So it's okay. So it's that, and then he slides up and does a 12-12 on the G and B string. So it's whichever one you want to do. You can slide or just kind of use your 3rd finger. And then he slides up to the 14th of the G and B. So it's alright, so the placement of that is alright. So that's the first fill. And then it's down to the E minor chord at that point. And then he does a little walk up here. And that walk up leads you to the next round of the chorus. Alright, so one of the guitar parts is doing that. So that's 2-4-5 on the A and then 2-4-5 on the D. And now the second fill that he does is also on the G and the B string. So he's starting on the 14th fret of the G string, and he's hammering. He's starting on the 14th and hammering to a 15-16. So it's, and then it's a 12-14 on the A string, and then 12-11 on the G string. So let me try to play just that part of it. So it's alright, so the timing of that is kind of, important if you want to learn it to track. So it's dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it. So it's down, 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 down. So these things happen kind of on the upbeat. Okay, so far in the chorus we have coming in from here. So they do this with a lot of guitars, so I think just one of the guitar players in the band is kind of doing those fills. Alright, so now chorus 2 starts out the same way. Alright, so chorus 2 has that same lead in, Alright, and when he's on that point, when he's at that note, right there, which is the note D, that's when the chorus kicks in with the G chord. Okay, and then once the rhythm section gets to the D chord, that's when he does his new fill. Okay, so this is now a new fill that hasn't been done in the first chorus. So this one starts on the upbeat. So this is a bend on the 9th fret of the G string. It's so you can either do or just do a and hit the 7 twice. I believe the tabs have you hitting the 7 twice, but either one sounds fine. It's all on the scale. It's very similar sounding, so it's or okay. So it starts on the upbeat. So it's and then it slides to the 9 on the D string. Okay, and then 7th on the G string. And then he does a half step bend of the 9th fret of the E string. And he hits a pinch harmonic there too. So if you can hit that pinch harmonic every time, do it. If not, it's not going to be the end of the world. I can't get the best pinch harmonics on this Strat, okay? But, so it's... Okay? Exactly as the tabs say. If you're watching this from our website, you see the tabs on your screen. If not, just follow along, okay? So, pretty simple fill. Then, it goes around to the E minor chord. And then once the rhythm section's on the B minor chord, the fill is exactly the same as before, 2-4-5, 2-4-5. All right, and the second fill again occurs on the D chord of the rhythm section, and it goes. So that's all the way up here on the 22nd fret. 15, 17, 19, 20, yeah, 22nd fret. 22nd fret B string. So you're bending a full bend on the B string, 22nd fret. And then you do a double hit on the 22nd fret of the E string, so it's. And then you bring the bend back down. Alright, and then you come down to the 19 of the B string. And then it ends doing a quick little bend release of the what is that, 21st fret of the G string. So it's. Alright, so again that occurs on the D chord. So let me try and play this whole chorus on the, using my looper pedal here. So it starts out the same way. Okay, so everything else is the same except for those two new fills. That is that. Now we get on to the solo section. So this is going to take a little bit of time, but we'll hack away at it and we'll do it. Okay, so here's the solo section of the song. Now, in order to teach the solo in the easiest to digest manner, I have it broken down into 8 different sections, okay? So each of the 8 sections is just kind of groupings of notes, phrasings, so you can kind of just do it part by part and until you can piece the whole thing together. And after everything is all said and done, I'll play a slow version of the solo for you using a looped rhythm, and that way you can follow along and see how the solo is played in its entirety. But as we walk through it, we're just going to do piece by piece, and as I said, 8 different sections, and that's not including the outro. The outro is the outro. Okay, that's the next section after the solo section. So with that said, here's solo section number 1. Okay, so if you're watching this from the website, you have the tabs on the screen. It's probably going to be a lot easier for you. If you're watching this from YouTube, just follow along with what I'm saying. and just do your best to take it all in. All right, so it starts out, it slides up to the 11th fret on the G string. So it goes, that's the first note, 11th fret G string. All right, and then it does a 10 on the B string to a 12 on the B string, and then it bends a 1.5 step bend. So this, you're attempting to hit, not attempting, you want to hit the tone of the 15th fret of the B string. So, okay, so you're hitting this tone. Alright, and then it goes. Alright, so it's 10, 12, and then it hits the 9 on the G string. So you have. Okay, and then it goes 7, 9 on the G string, and a little bend on the 9, and you're hitting that 8th fret on the D string. So we have. Now the way I do this next part, you could probably play this in the same position here, but I like to do it down here because it's easier to get the hammer. So you hammer on from open to 3 on the B string, hammer open, 3, open, and then you land on the 2 of the G string and do a little bend. So you could probably do this in this area, but I like to do. Okay, so I go. Goes to, so you're hammering on the 7 to the 9 on the G string, and then 7 on the B, okay, and then 7, 7, alright, and then it's doing a, on the D string it's going 9, 8, and then 7, 9, and then at 7, 9, 7. So it's. Alright, so far we have. Okay, so the first one for this little section is a 9-8, and then the second one is a 9-7. Okay, one more time slow. Solo section number 1 of 8. Okay, so now on to number 2. Okay, now section 1, 2, or section 2 of the solo goes like this. So you're bending on the 10th fret of the B string, you're grabbing the 10th fret of the E string, and you're releasing the bend, 7th fret B string, 10th fret B string, 8th fret B string with a little bend. to 7/7, and then a bend of the 10 on the E string. And you bring the 10 back down, and then bend the 10 again. Alright, so far we have and then another bend on this 10. So you have and then you're bending on the 9. 9 of the G string. Grabbing the 10 on the E string. Releasing the 9. And then 7/7 on the G and the D. And then 7/6/7 on the G. Okay, so coming out of here. Okay, one more time. Coming out of the last section. Okay, so that is section number 2 of the solo. Okay, we still have 6 more to go. So you can always refer back to each one of these groupings at any point in the video, and then you can kind of just piece it together yourself. Okay, so that's section 2. Alright, so now we have solo section 3. Alright, so this comes right out of that last part, which ended on the 7/6/7. Okay, so now you're going. Alright, so that's 7/9 on the G string. Alright. And then another one. Alright, so alright, and then you're doing a bend on the 9 on the G string. Bend on the 9, 7/10 on the B. And then another bend on the 9, and then 7/7 on the B and the E. So that last part is a bend release of the 9th fret G string. And you're ending it on the 9th fret bend. So it's so far in this solo we have so that's what we have so far. So that last was just solo section 3. Now we're going on to solo section 4. Okay, so solo section number 4 has it's doing basically the same thing that solo section number 3 ended on. Only this is they're kind of going back and forth between one guitar and the other guitar. So the second guitar player comes in and basically does what the previous guitar player does. So it's alright, so that's all just pentatonic stuff right there on that on that in the B minor pentatonic area. All right. All right. Let me do that with more correct timing. All right. So. And then he moves into. So that's a bend on the 11th fret of the G string. Full bend. As soon as he's done that bend, he just kind of comes right to the 9. And then he doesn't go back to the 9, he goes down to the 7 instead. So it's. And he ends that on the 9th fret of the D string. Alright, and then he goes bend on the 10th fret of the B string. So 10th fret B string, 7th fret E string, 10th fret B string, 7th fret B string. Okay, so you have. Alright, and then it slides from the 10 to the 12 on the B, 10 on the E, and 12, 11, 10, 9. Alright, so this whole section is. Okay, so just follow along with the tabs if you are watching this from my website. So far in the solo we have. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Now on to solo section 5. Okay, this is part number 5 of the solo. Now this part is relatively easy for the most part, except for this one little section of it. And this one little section, and I'll point it out when I get to it, is very tricky. And I almost never get it right when I play it live. I play the song live a lot with my band, but I almost never get this one part right, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So this part starts out with a bend on the 14th fret of the G string. So it's bend on 14, grabbing the 12 of the B, and then you do the same thing with the 15 of the B and the 12 on the E. So okay, that's pretty straightforward. And you come up to the 17 of the B, 17 of the B, then you grab the 17 of the E with your pinky. Alright. Just as the tabs say if you're watching this from my website. So. Alright, and then it goes bend on the 17, and then 15, 16, 17 on the E, and then you bend on the 17, Now this is the tricky part. This is the part I almost never get right. You bend on the 17 of the E, but when you come back down, you want to do a pre-bend release of the 17 of the B string. So it's... Okay, so you're ending this bend, and then coming down. So I never get that right when I play it live, and even for this demonstration, I'm probably not going to get it right. But just know that that's what he actually does in the song. So he goes... Okay, and that's actually the end of solo section number 5. It just kind of goes, and then it goes into solo section number 6. So anyway, this whole part is... Okay, so far what we have is the whole solo up to this point is... Oops, we didn't get into that part. Sorry about that. But, yeah, so we ended it at the... Okay, so we ended it there. Now we're going to get into solo section number 6. Okay, so here is part 6 of this solo. Now, the end of this whole phrase right here has a little harmony. Okay, now the guitar 2 is actually what does the high harmony note, but I play this live. I play this, I'm the only guitar player that does the lead, so I don't have another guitar player to harmonize with. So I actually hit the high 17, whereas in the way they do it, the the main guitar, the guitar number 1, if you want to call it, hits the 12th fret. But I'll show you both parts, and if you're watching this from the website, you see it on the screen. But anyway, so this goes like this. Okay, and now the one guitar player goes down to here, down to the 12th fret B string, and does a full bend, and the second guitar player does a full bend on the 17. Okay, so that's what I do. I hit the full 17 because that's the more apparent note. When you're doing this by yourself, you want to do this high bend on the 17. So... Okay, that's what I do when I play it by myself. But in reality, what the Eagles do is they go... Okay, but you don't want to hit that note when you're playing it by yourself. If you have another guitar player harmonizing with you, then go ahead and do that. But if you're doing it by yourself, I would recommend hitting the high 17. Okay, and so the second guitar player also, before he hits the high 17, he kind of goes like this on the 18. It's like, so it's a little bend of the 18th fret of the G string. Little bend on the 18, then down to the 16 of the G string, then a high bend on the 17. Okay, and the other guitar player is going. And then the other guitar is going. Okay, so that's your harmony. Alright, and if you're looking at the tabs, you see it's circled in green. It shows you what the other guitar player is doing. But, again, I'm going to play it by myself over the looped rhythm, and you'll see that it sounds a lot better to hit that high 17 because that's the more apparent note. So, up till now we have this much of the solo. so you see how I ended on that 17 right there? My hand is like killing me right now from going over this so much. I can't even hit these bends right now. My fingers are like, ugh. This is probably the most difficult lesson I've had to do since I've made this site. So forgive me if I'm not hitting the full bends or if I'm slacking. I'm getting very frustrated at trying to do this over and over, but whatever, that's that. But notice how I hit that 17 instead of that 12 there, okay? So just know that the one harmony is, and the other harmony is, okay? So if you're watching it from my website, just as the tabs say. So that's solo section number 6. Now we have solo section number 7. Alright, so solo section number 7 comes right out of that harmonized part, which they just did. So the one guitar player is kind of hitting 17. And the other guitar player is hitting 12 on the B. Okay, so it's coming right out of that, and he goes, so bend on the 12 of the B, hit on the 10th of the E. And then he's doing a, coming from the 11th of the G. So 11, 9, 7 on the G. And then 9, 8 of the D. So it's da 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 da. So it's, and then you want to end it on the 11 of the B. So it's kind of hard to get this timing down. Okay, and the reason that I was talking about in the last section that the one guitar player is hitting the high harmony, the other guitar player, and the other guitar player is down here on the 12 is because that kind of sets you up for being in this area here, you know? So the one guitar player is kind of hitting that high 17 and the other guitar player is getting ready to do down here. But if you're playing the solo by yourself, as I always do, then you kind of gotta kind of pick which notes are the most apparent in the solo so you can play those, you know, because you don't have a second guitar player to help you out. Alright, so coming out of the previous section very slowly, it sounds like this. Alright, and then it's does like a bend on the 12th of the E string, and he kind of slowly releases the bend by going. Okay, so it does that for a total of, I'm not sure how many times, but you can just count it right here. Okay, so after he bends that 12, or after he releases off that 12 and finishes the bends, he goes. Okay, so this is a difficult section for me too. I usually kind of am a little sloppy on this part when I'm playing this live. So it's that's the part that I'm sloppy at. Okay, so that's what it should sound like. I can't guarantee I'm going to do that perfectly every time, but that's what it is. Okay, so it's after this we have. So it's starting on the 10 of the B string. Alright, your timing is just like that. Alright. Alright, And then we have solo section 8, and that's a harmonized guitar part, and that's basically it for the whole solo. Then we just go into the outro, and then we're done. Alright? So let me get to solo section 8. I'll show you both guitar parts. Okay, so now here is the 8th and the final section of this solo. Alright, so this is, both guitar parts are harmonizing with each other, doing this kind of cool walk down thing, and this leads right into the outro solo. So the outro solo is going to be the next section. Well, actually, I'm going to play the entire solo for you at a slower speed so you can watch what I do. And then the final section will be the outro section. But anyway, so this, the one guitar part goes like this. He starts with a bend on the 9 and he goes. So it's easier to just watch what I do. If you're watching from the website, the tabs are on the screen so you can follow along with the tabs. But I'm not going to call out every single note and string, so it's easier to just watch what I do here. So it's. So one more time, a little slower. So it'll make a lot more sense when I play it over the loop. You know, it'll make a lot more sense. That way you can hear it. But okay, so. Okay, so you see how I did that? Alright, so again, I'll just play it slow one more time, just kind of follow along with what I do. So it's. I didn't mean to hit that extra note there, but if you're watching from the website, I'm just doing exactly what the tabs say. It's a lot easier when you have the tab on the screen. If you're on YouTube, just follow it. Okay, so, and then it ends this phrase with this guitar part goes. Okay, so that's what this guitar is doing, alright? That leads into the outro solo. Okay, so now for the other guitar part. Okay, now the second guitar part that's harmonizing with us at the same point is doing the same thing, only he's starting on the 10th fret B string, and again, just follow along with, if you're on YouTube or if you're on my site, just follow the tabs. So it's. So a little slower. Alright, so if you have the tabs on the screen, I'm sure it's a lot easier to follow along, but you can just keep rewinding this. I'm going to try to play it one more time, even slower, so you can, if you're on YouTube, you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then the end part goes. So let me try and, I have the rhythm stored and I have the guitar part one, the guitar one part stored. So let me play them together, harmonize, so you can hear how that sounds. Alright, and right from there it goes right into the outro solo. Okay, so again, if you're on YouTube, you know, that's I don't put the tabs and the chord diagrams in my videos on YouTube. If you're on my website, just follow along because the tabs are accurate. Alright, so with that said, let's get to the final section of the song, which is the outro solo. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm going to play the entire solo slow first, okay? So before I do anything, I want to play this whole solo section slow, and then we'll go into the outro section, alright? Alright, so that wasn't perfect. There were some mistakes, but my hand is literally so cramped up and killing me because I've been doing this lesson all day and it hurts so much. So, but hopefully you get the idea of, you know, you just follow along with the tabs, just practice it section by section. I broke it down into 8 sections. That's the entire solo. Now we have the outro, and then that's the end of the song. Alright, so this is the outro of the song. This is 2 parts harmonizing with each other, and it's just basically a series of arpeggios. Alright, it's arpeggios, and then they slide up to a fret. And you know, so if you're on YouTube, just watch the arpeggios I'm doing. It's not that complicated. If you're on the website, just follow along with the tabs. Okay. So the first arpeggio is 14, 15, 16. You know, all these arpeggios for this guitar part take place on the high E, the B, and the G string. So it's 14, 15, 16. Let me put this on clean so I can demonstrate this in clean. So it's okay. So that's the first arpeggio, and then you go down to 12, 14, 15. And then it slides up to the 18. So you have alright, and then it goes down to 12, 14, 14. And then 10, 12, 13. And then it slides to the 16 this time. So far we have next arpeggio is a 10-12-12. And then 10-10-11. And then it slides to the 14 this time. And the final one is the 7-8-9. I'm sorry, that's the second to the final one. The final one is 9-11-11. And it slides to the 14 again. So altogether we have Okay, so here's what the second guitar is doing. So the second guitar is just simply a harmony underneath the first guitar, okay? So it's a lower harmony, and usually when I play this live, since it's just me playing it, I usually play what I just showed you. I usually don't play this part, so this is just the low harmony with it. So if you're playing with a second guitar player, this is what the second guitar player would be playing. If you're playing by yourself, I usually play the higher one because that's the more recognizable sound, okay? But anyway, this starts out with a 10-12-11. So you have then you have 9-11-11, and then you slide to the 14. Okay, then you have 9-10-9. Then you have 7-9-9. You slide to the 12. Then you have 7-8-7. Then you have 5-7-7. You slide to the 10. Then you have 3-5-4. And you have 6-7-6. And you slide to the 9 to end it off. Okay, so you have the whole thing is where we start at 10-12-11. Okay. And that's the second guitar part. So that is the entire song. It's a very, very long lesson, very, very long solo section, very long everything. It took me forever to tab this out, so extremely exhausted. So I don't know, I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.